if you open up the Bible and start quoting scripture to me, I feel like you don't understand that I believe in God and that some things, you interpret differently. And I think Cruz has over-pandered to the evangelicals. We've seen this happen before to the Republican Party. And just because you don't go to church regular or submit yourself to a lot of things that you don't believe yourself, doesn't mean you don't believe in God, and doesn't mean that you won't stand for Christianity. And I think that's where Cruz is getting this wrong, just like the statement about New York. There's a lot of our military guys and gals that are from New York. There are a lot of New Yorkers living all around me, and they're great people, and they're looking forward to seeing Trump become president too. And I don't think that evangelicals will sit back and not vote this go around like they did for Romney's bid.
Well, I hope that is true. I hope they will not sit on their duff and not vote. But I don't know if the evangelicals are not really looking at Trump as a fellow evangelical. They're not. And, they may not be firmly or fully happy with Ted Cruz. And you're right. I think Ted Cruz is trying to pander a little bit too much to that crowd. But one could argue that Ted is an evangelical himself, where they don't believe that Trump is. And I don't think Trump has ever said that he's an evangelical. He says he believes in God. He believes in Jesus, that he's a Christian. He's definitely not an evangelical. So
I'm sorry.
I don't think that they're going to stay home on Election Day in November if Trump is on the ticket, if he's the nominee. I think that they'll be, because he's not a Mormon, I think they'll be able to feel a little bit more comfortable voting for him. Now, with that said, will they be supporting him in the Iowa caucus? I think, Cruz may have a lead. He may have an edge there, but I don't know how deep this whole notion of Cruz is not, a natural-born citizen, because he was actually born in Canada. I don't know how much that'll hurt him, because that's really important to the people in the Midwest. I mean, flyover country is very American.
Right.
The left and the right coast.
one thing when I see Trump on the stage, I see so much energy. I mean, I see so much energy. In the times I've seen him with the Bible, he holds the Bible up and says, hey, I read the Bible. But to quote scripture is wonderful if you're in church and you're with fellow Christians. But once the general election comes around, there's a lot of folks that are not as deeply involved in the church. Not that they won't be in the future, but I think when general election time comes around, if we have someone that's too far leaning toward evangelicals to carry them through this general election, Cruz is not going to get it done, and that's just my fault.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I see the Well, your other aspect was about swipe at New York, and frankly, I think a lot of pundits might overplaying that, because frankly, when people outside of New York talk about New York, they mean the Big Apple. Have hit the nail on the head, because the rest of the country, except for California, sees what New York City did. By an overwhelming majority, they elected basically a communist as mayor, de Blasio. And so when Cruz is talking about New York values, I think he's pointing to New York City, and what they recently did is elected basically a socialist, mayor. Now, where he made his error is that he was trying to say, well, that was also Trump. Well, obviously Trump is a full-blown capitalist, which is about the exact socialist communist. So I think he erred on that part, but I think he really hit hit the nail on the head as far as the rest of the country is concerned about how they view New York City. And believe me, if you look at the stories around the country, Americans are not, they think that visit and that kind of thing, but they kind of.
Well, see, this is coming from my point of view. I live in North Carolina, and this is the dirty South, But I have respect for New Yorkers, even though they may not be evangelicals in certain circumstances, but they do have a lot of heart. They are involved in our military. New York is more than just New York City. It's upstate New York with country scenes and small communities up there. And a lot of people that have lived in New York may have moved out because they didn't agree with the fast-paced life and the big city lights. But they still have a heart that is rooted in where they were born and where they were raised. And if we don't get these folks in the general election that live in these other states that are from New York, that's just a bad mark beside the Republican Party. And we can talk all we want to about immigration, illegals, which, Trump is so big on, and I'm so proud of him for that. But when you start separating Americans by their values, that's when you lose votes. That's when you lose a general election. That's when people get divided and don't come out and vote for the Republican. And we've had enough of it. We've had enough of this general election stuff where we falter, and we cannot let Hillary take this thing, or Bernie, the communist that he is. We cannot let these folks get in. We need somebody that can win a general election. We need Trump, and we need Trump only. And I would love to see Huckabee back out, throw his evangelical support behind Trump, and then I'd like to see Huckabee be our ambassador to Israel, because we need Israel, and we need to get this country protected, and we need to protect our brothers and sisters in Israel.
I think it's the first time I've heard Huckabee's name thrown around to be ambassador to Israel, but I suppose that would not be a bad choice.
You watch him when he's interviewed or when he's speaking. Israel is on his plate. He's been there many, many times, and he's a good guy. He's really a good guy, and I can see him sitting across the table with the Israelis and just bringing us back together as a family again. And I would love that, Rod. And I want to ask you a question, if I can.
Sure. What
made you to decide to do this show, and how long have you been doing this?
Personal. Wow. Well, I basically started this program back in 2009 simply because I was really upset and angry with our newly elected president at the time, Barack Hussein Obama, and trying to shove Obamacare and a couple of other things down our throat within the first 3 months of his presidency. So, went on the air to express my frustration, and this program was born.
Well, man, we're so proud of you. We're so proud. This is new. This is new to a lot of us. A lot of my friends and followers on Twitter. We're talking you up. And I wanted to ask you another question. If a couple of times a week I can get my followers on Twitter to give us maybe 3 topics to talk about, are you into that, man? Can we do that?
Sure. What's on everybody's mind? That's why I have open lines when everybody can call.
Okay. I know a lot of people are nervous about calling in. I'm nervous. I stay nervous, but I'm just doing what I can.
Well, you didn't sound nervous. You did your job. You made me look good.
Well, that's a good thing. So what I want to do is maybe a couple of times a week, get some folks on Twitter to give me suggestions on what kind of topics that I can bring up to you, because, you make me feel comfortable, Rod, and that's so important to someone that's not done this before. And I'm going to get off here and give somebody else a chance, but I want to thank you so much. Rod Eccles Show rocks. You rock.
I am humbled by that. Thank you very much. And thanks for your call. In calling the program. Look, I do want to hear what's on other people's minds. I mean, I try to bring you the relevant information, and a lot of times I bring you stuff that the other big guys aren't talking about. But it's also important to understand and know what your interests are and what your take is on some of the things that I'm talking about here. It's good to have a conversation. Give me a call. Don't be nervous. It's not like 20 million people are listening. I'm not going to tell you how many people are listening. We're getting there. We are getting there. But honestly, if I go back to my original topic of this hour or this segment, if you win, let me just ask this question. If you find yourself with a life-altering event, it will change your life potentially forever. And you know that it's going to change your life forever. Would you not then prepare yourself before you accepted that life-altering event? Now, I know sometimes, life-altering events just get thrust upon us and we have to go with the flow right there. I understand that. But there are times when there are life-changing. I mean, there are people that get a windfall in an inheritance, and it doesn't really matter how big or how small it is. To some people, a $50,000 inheritance could be a life-changing event. But before you got your hands on that life-changing event, would you go and do your due diligence and prepare yourself? Or would you just go with the flow and say, hey, yeah, I'm going to take this? Because the one thing that I've always... Here's how you can do this experiment with yourself. All you have to do is, just for a week, just try it for 1 week. Give yourself some spending money. I don't know, whatever you can, you're comfortable, whatever your weekly personal allowance is, or do you allow, make it $100, $200, doesn't matter. Whatever it is. Take it in cash and put it in your pocket. Do not keep track of where you're spending it. Just I know this is going against the, all the financial wizards out there that tell you to keep track. But I'm just telling you, don't keep track of it just this once for a week. And just go about your daily routine of what you normally do every week and spend it. Normally do. Don't use a card, use cash. Now, for some people, cash means that they're going to spend a little bit less because they're actually taking it out of their empty as they're spending the money. Sort of curbs their spending a little bit, but I get that. But just do it. You will be surprised how fast that money dwindles. When you're actually looking at it, you'll be surprised at the end of the week that if $100, $200, you'll be surprised how fast you get below 10%. Because that's when you're not paying attention. And a lot of these lottery winners or these windfall winners, could be lottery, inheritance, what have you, they forget their sensibilities when it comes to money. They simply forget, and they don't realize what they're spending. And so they think that they have all of this money. You got $1 million, man. That $1 million doesn't go as far as one thinks it does. And it happens over and over and over. What is it, 60 or 70 are broke or bankrupt within 10 years, within a decade. They lose it all, and then some. So, yeah, the lottery officials are rightfully concerned that this couple came forward basically the day after the draw. One of the winners. Continue after this.